An unexpected evening. Jasmine Walker tugged at the hem of her borrowed navy dress as she stepped out of the taxi in front of the Grand Riverside Hotel. The towering Manhattan skyscraper glittered like a diamond against the night sky, and she felt completely out of place. This was not her world. Her world was the cozy second-hand bookstore in Brooklyn where she worked, surrounded by the smell of old pages and the quiet company of stories. "Stop fidgeting," Claire Mitchell whispered, linking arms with her best friend. "You look absolutely stunning." "I look like I'm playing dress-up," Jasmine muttered, watching elegant women in designer gowns glide past them. "Remind me again why I let you talk me into this?" Claire grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Because it's for the Children's Literacy Foundation, and you literally spend your Saturdays teaching kids to read for free. This is your cause, Jazz." Jasmine sighed, knowing her friend was right. When Claire had shown her the invitation to the charity auction, mentioning that they were raising money for reading programs in underprivileged schools, she couldn't refuse. But she never imagined she would end up being one of the people auctioned off for dates. "I still can't believe you signed me up for the date auction without asking," Jasmine said as they entered the magnificent lobby with its crystal chandeliers and marble floors. "You would have said no," Claire replied matter-of-factly. "And you're single, gorgeous, and deserve a night out with someone who can actually afford to take you somewhere nicer than the pizza place on our corner." The moment everything changed. The ballroom was breathtaking. Round tables covered in white linen surrounded a central stage, and waiters moved gracefully between guests carrying trays of champagne. Jasmine accepted a glass with trembling hands, trying to calm her nerves as the evening's program began. She watched as several women walked across the stage to enthusiastic bidding. Each date was going for impressive amounts, but nothing prepared her for what would happen when her turn came. "Ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer announced with theatrical flair, "our next participant is Miss Jasmine Walker. Jasmine works at Riverside Books in Brooklyn and volunteers every weekend teaching children to read. She loves classic literature, rainy afternoons, and believes that every child deserves access to books." Jasmine felt her cheeks burn as she walked onto the stage under the bright lights. She could barely see the faces in the crowd, which was probably a blessing. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. "We'll start the bidding at $500, the auctioneer said. Several hands went up immediately, and Jasmine felt a mixture of relief and embarrassment as the number climbed to 5,000, then 10,000. Then she saw him. A man stood up from a table near the front. Even from the stage, Jasmine could see he was striking, tall with dark hair and an air of absolute confidence. He wore his tuxedo like it was a second skin, and when his eyes met hers, she felt something shift in the air around them. $200,000, he said, his deep voice cutting through the excited chatter. The room fell silent. Jasmine's mouth dropped open. "We have 200,000, the auctioneer said, clearly thrilled. "Do I hear 250? An older gentleman in the back raised his hand, and Jasmine watched as the first man's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. $450,000, he announced, never breaking eye contact with Jasmine. The gasp that went through the crowd was audible. The auctioneer stammered for a moment before regaining his composure. $450,000. Going once, going twice, sold to Mr. Bennett Ashford. Jasmine stood frozen on the stage as applause erupted around her. $450,000. For a single dinner date. With her. It was impossible. It was insane. The first meeting. When Jasmine finally made it off the stage on shaky legs, Claire was waiting with wide eyes and an expression of pure shock. But before they could speak, a tall figure approached them. Up close, Bennett Ashford was even more impressive. He had warm brown eyes that crinkled slightly at the corners when he smiled, and there was something genuine in his expression that immediately put Jasmine at ease despite her nerves. "Miss Walker," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Bennett Ashford. I apologize if I startled you up there." Jasmine shook his hand, feeling a jolt of electricity at the contact. You just paid almost $500,000 for dinner with a complete stranger. I think startled is an understatement. He laughed, a rich sound that made her stomach flutter. I should clarify. The money goes to an incredible cause, and when I saw you on that stage, I knew I had to meet you. You could have just introduced yourself and saved $450,000, Jasmine pointed out, though she was smiling now. Where's the fun in that? Bennett replied, his eyes twinkling. Besides, I believe in putting my money where my values are, and literacy programs matter to me. My father was a janitor who taught himself to read at age 30. Books changed his life. The sincerity in his voice caught Jasmine off guard. This wasn't what she expected from a man who could casually spend that kind of money. I'm sorry, she said softly. That must have been difficult for him. It was, Bennett acknowledged. But it made him the strongest person I ever knew. When I saw your bio, that you volunteer teaching kids to read, I knew you understood why this matters. Claire cleared her throat pointedly, and Jasmine suddenly remembered she was there. Oh. I'm so sorry. Bennett, this is my best friend Claire. Claire, this is Bennett. The man who just made my friend a very expensive dinner date, Claire said with a grin. Nice to meet you, Mr. Ashford. Please, call me Bennett, he said warmly before turning back to Jasmine. So, Miss Walker, when would you like to have our dinner? Planning something special. Jasmine's mind raced. I'm free most evenings. I work until 6 at the bookstore. Riverside Books in Brooklyn, right? Bennett asked, and she nodded, surprised he remembered. I know it. Beautiful old building. How about Saturday evening? I'll pick you up at 7. That sounds perfect, Jasmine managed to say, though her heart was racing again. Bennett smiled, and she noticed how it transformed his entire face, making him look younger and less intimidating. I'm looking forward to it. And Jasmine? Yes? Wear whatever makes you comfortable. This isn't about impressing anyone. It's just dinner between two people who both care about getting books into kids' hands. As he walked away after exchanging contact information, Claire grabbed Jasmine's arm and squeezed it excitedly. Oh my God, Jazz. Do you know who that is? Besides someone with way too much money to spend on dinner dates? Jasmine asked weakly. That's Bennett Ashford. He owns like half the commercial real estate in Manhattan. He's on the cover of business magazines. And he just bid almost $500,000 to have dinner with you. Jasmine watched Bennett's retreating figure as he stopped to talk with other guests, shaking hands and smiling. He seems normal though. Not what I expected. Girl, normal men don't bid $450,000 at charity auctions, Claire laughed. This is going to be quite a story. As they left the hotel that night, Jasmine couldn't stop thinking about the way Bennett had looked at her on that stage, like she was the only person in the room. She had no idea that one auction, one impossible bid, would change her entire life. The city lights blurred past the taxi window as they drove back to Brooklyn, and Jasmine felt a mixture of excitement and terror. In just a few days, she would have dinner with one of the most powerful men in New York. A man who had just proven he was willing to pay an extraordinary price for the chance to know her. She touched her phone in her purse, where his number was now saved. Whatever happened next, she knew nothing would ever be quite the same again. The anticipation builds. The days leading up to Saturday felt like the longest of Jasmine's life. She found herself distracted at work, reorganizing the same shelf of books 3 times while her mind wandered to thoughts of Bennett Ashford. Every time the bell above the bookstore door chimed, her heart would skip a beat, half expecting to see him walk in. You've been smiling at that copy of Pride and Prejudice for 5 minutes, old Mr. Henderson said from his usual corner chair. The retired teacher was a regular customer who spent most afternoons reading in the store. Must be quite a story. Jasmine blinked and realized she had indeed been staring at the same book. Sorry, Mr. Henderson. Just a bit distracted today. Wouldn't have anything to do with that charity auction Claire's been telling everyone about, would it? He peered at her over his reading glasses with a knowing smile. Jasmine felt her cheeks warm. She told you? Dear girl, she's told everyone. You're practically a celebrity in the neighborhood now. The woman who charmed a billionaire. He chuckled softly. Though I'm not surprised. You've got a good heart, and smart men notice that. He's not a billionaire, Jasmine protested weakly, though she honestly had no idea how much Bennett was worth. Mr. Henderson just smiled and returned to his book, leaving Jasmine to her thoughts. An unexpected visitor. Friday afternoon, Jasmine was helping a young mother find picture books for her daughter when the bell chimed again. She looked up and froze. Jasmine felt her cheeks warm. She told you? Dear girl, she's told everyone. You're practically a celebrity in the neighborhood now. The woman who charmed a billionaire. He chuckled softly. Though I'm not surprised. You've got a good heart, and smart men notice that. He's not a billionaire, Jasmine protested weakly, though she honestly had no idea how much Bennett was worth. Mr. Henderson just smiled and returned to his book, leaving Jasmine to her thoughts. An unexpected visitor. Friday afternoon, Jasmine was helping a young mother find picture books for her daughter when the bell chimed again. She looked up and froze. Bennett Ashford stood in the doorway of her modest bookstore, looking somehow both perfectly at ease and completely out of place in his tailored charcoal suit. I'll be right with you, Jasmine called out, trying to keep her voice steady as she finished ringing up the customer's purchase. Bennett wandered through the narrow aisles, running his fingers along the spines of books, a small smile playing on his lips. When the mother and daughter left, he approached the counter. This place is wonderful, he said genuinely. It smells like my childhood. My father used to take me to a store just like this in Queens. What are you doing here? Jasmine asked, then immediately felt rude. I mean, not that you're not welcome. I just wasn't expecting you until tomorrow. I was in the neighborhood, Bennett said, which they both knew was probably a lie. And I wanted to see where you spend your days. I hope that's not too forward. It's a bookstore, Jasmine replied with a nervous laugh. Not exactly a secret location. Bennett leaned against the counter, and Jasmine noticed how relaxed he seemed, so different from the commanding presence he had at the auction. Tell me about it. How long have you worked here? 5 years, Jasmine said, her passion for the place evident in her voice. I started as a part-timer while finishing college. The owner, Mrs. Chen, she took a chance on me when I needed it most. This place is special. We host reading circles for kids on Saturdays, and we have a program where people can sponsor books for schools that can't afford them. Bennett's eyes lit up with genuine interest. That's exactly the kind of grassroots work that makes real change. Big foundations write checks, but places like this actually put books in children's hands. Speaking from experience? Jasmine asked, detecting something personal in his tone. My first company headquarters was above a bookstore in Brooklyn, actually, Bennett shared, his expression turning nostalgic. When I was 23 and thought I could change the world with $1,200 and a business plan written on notebook paper. The owner let me stay late to use their internet before I could afford my own. Mrs. Yuki. I still send her flowers on her birthday. Jasmine found herself smiling. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more formal, I guess. More distant. You paid $450,000 for a dinner date. That's not exactly a normal person thing to do. Bennett laughed. Fair point. But I meant what I said that night. The cause matters to me, and meeting you was worth every penny. He paused, then added more softly, I have a feeling it might be worth even more than that. The perfect date. Saturday evening arrived too quickly and not fast enough. Jasmine changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple emerald green dress that Claire insisted made her eyes sparkle. When Bennett's car pulled up, she was surprised to see him driving himself rather than arriving in a chauffeured vehicle. "You look beautiful," he said as she slid into the passenger seat of his sleek black car. "But I knew you would." "You clean up pretty well yourself," Jasmine replied, admiring how his navy suit fit him perfectly. Instead of heading toward the glittering restaurants of Manhattan, Bennett drove them to a rooftop garden in Brooklyn that Jasmine had never even known existed. Strands of lights created a canopy above a single table set for two, surrounded by flowering plants and offering a stunning view of the city skyline. "How did you find this place?" Jasmine breathed, taking in the magical setting. "I asked around about romantic spots in Brooklyn that weren't the usual tourist traps," Bennett admitted. "This building belongs to a friend who owed me a favor. I wanted somewhere we could actually talk without photographers or society gossips watching our every move." Dinner was prepared by a private chef but felt wonderfully intimate. They talked easily, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. Jasmine learned that Bennett had built his company from nothing after his father died, working 18-hour days to honor the man who had sacrificed everything for his education. "He used to say that the only real wealth is what you know and who you help," Bennett said quietly. "Money is just a tool." It took me a long time to understand what he meant. "And now?" Jasmine asked. "Now I understand that having resources means nothing if you don't use them to make a difference. That's why I was at that auction. It's why I give away more than half of what I earn." He looked at her intently. "And it's why meeting someone who spends her free time teaching kids to read, someone who does it not for recognition but because it matters, that's rare." "You're rare, Jasmine." She felt her breath catch. "I'm really not. I'm just a bookstore clerk who loves stories." "You're someone who believes in the power of stories to change lives," Bennett corrected gently. "That's everything." As the night grew later, they moved to a comfortable bench surrounded by jasmine flowers that perfumed the air. Bennett reached for her hand carefully, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. "I need to be honest with you about something," Bennett said, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "My life comes with complications. There's media attention, social expectations, and family pressure. My mother, in particular, has very specific ideas about who I should be with." "Let me guess," Jasmine said wryly. "Bookstore clerks from Brooklyn don't make the list." "She hasn't met you yet," Bennett replied. "When she does, she'll understand what I see. But I want you to know what you might be walking into if we pursue this." "Are we pursuing this?" Jasmine asked, her heart racing. Bennett turned to face her fully, his brown eyes serious and warm. "I'd like to. Very much. I know we just met, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since I saw you on that stage. You were terrified but brave, authentic in a room full of performance. I want to know everything about you, Jasmine Walker. What books make you cry, what songs you sing in the shower, what dreams keep you awake at night. I want to know those things about you too," Jasmine whispered. He leaned in slowly, and when their lips met, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. The kiss was gentle and sweet, full of promise and possibility. Reality intrudes. The following weeks were a beautiful blur. Bennett found excuses to visit the bookstore almost daily, sometimes bringing coffee, sometimes just sitting in the corner and working on his laptop while Jasmine helped customers. They had dinner at small neighborhood restaurants where no one recognized him, walked through parks talking for hours, and slowly built something real. But reality has a way of catching up. 3 weeks after their first date, Bennett invited Jasmine to a business gala. "I know it's not your favorite thing," he said apologetically, "but Trevor, my business partner, is receiving an award. He's my closest friend, and I'd really like you to be there with me." Jasmine agreed, though she felt the familiar nervousness return as she shopped for an appropriate dress. The event was at the Plaza Hotel, and the guest list read like a who's who of New York society. Bennett stayed close to her side throughout the evening, introducing her proudly to his colleagues. Trevor Goldman turned out to be a warm, friendly man who immediately put Jasmine at ease. "So you're the woman who's got Bennett smiling again," Trevor said with a grin. "I haven't seen him this happy in years." "Trevor," Bennett warned, but he was smiling. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking," Trevor replied. "It's good to see, my friend. Really good." But not everyone was pleased. Across the ballroom, Jasmine noticed a stunning blonde woman watching them with an expression of cold calculation. When she caught Jasmine's eye, she smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Who is that?" Jasmine asked Bennett quietly. He followed her gaze and his expression tightened. "That's Natasha Winters. We dated briefly last year. It ended badly." "Define badly." "She wanted a merger, not a relationship," Bennett said carefully. "Her family's investment firm wanted access to my business connections. When I realized she was more interested in my portfolio than in me, I ended it." She didn't take it well. As if summoned by their conversation, Natasha glided over in a dress that probably cost more than Jasmine's monthly rent. "Bennett, darling," she purred, air-kissing both his cheeks while completely ignoring Jasmine. "It's been too long. We should have lunch and catch up." "Natasha, this is Jasmine Walker, my girlfriend," Bennett said firmly, placing a protective hand on Jasmine's back. "Jasmine, Natasha Winters." The word "girlfriend" sent a warm thrill through Jasmine, even as Natasha's eyes turned cold. "Oh yes, the charity auction girl," Natasha said with a dismissive smile. "How quaint. Tell me, dear, what do you do?" "I work at a bookstore," Jasmine said evenly, refusing to be intimidated. "How lovely," Natasha replied in a tone that suggested it was anything but. Bennett always did have a soft spot for charity cases. Before either of them could respond, she floated away, leaving behind the lingering scent of expensive perfume and malice. "I'm sorry about that," Bennett said immediately. "She's toxic." "It's fine," Jasmine said, though she felt shaken. "I'm sure I'm not what people expected." "You're exactly what I want," Bennett said firmly. "That's all that matters." But later that night, as Bennett dropped her off at her apartment with a lingering kiss, Jasmine couldn't shake Natasha's words. Charity case. Was that how his world saw her? And more importantly, would there come a day when Bennett saw her that way too? Meeting the mother. 2 days later, Bennett called with tension evident in his voice. "My mother wants to meet you. Tomorrow, lunch at her house in the Hamptons." "That's sudden," Jasmine said, her stomach dropping. "She saw photos of us at the gala," Bennett explained. "She's been calling non-stop. I think it's better to just get it over with." "But Jasmine, I want you to know that regardless of what she says, it doesn't change how I feel about you." The fact that he felt the need to say that made Jasmine even more nervous. Diane Ashford's Hampton estate was exactly what Jasmine expected: massive, immaculate, and completely intimidating. Bennett's mother was a tall, elegant woman in her early 60s with steel-gray hair and eyes that assessed Jasmine like she was a piece of furniture being considered for purchase. "So you're the bookstore girl," Diane said as they sat down to lunch on a terrace overlooking the ocean. It wasn't a question. "I work at Riverside Books in Brooklyn," Jasmine confirmed, trying to match the older woman's poise. "How nice," Diane replied with the same false warmth Natasha had used. "And you met my son at a charity auction where you were being auctioned off for dates." "Mother," Bennett said warningly. "It's a legitimate question, Bennett. I'm simply trying to understand the situation." "The situation is that I've met someone special," Bennett said firmly. "Someone who shares my values and makes me happy." Diane turned her cool gaze back to Jasmine. "Tell me, dear, what do your parents do?" My mother was a nurse. My father worked in construction, Jasmine answered. They both passed away when I was in college. I'm sorry for your loss, Diane said, though her tone suggested she was more interested in confirming Jasmine's unremarkable background than offering sympathy. And you have a college degree in what exactly? English literature. Ah. So you work in a bookstore with an English degree. I see. The judgment was clear in her voice. The lunch continued in this vein, with Diane asking increasingly pointed questions about Jasmine's background, education, and prospects while Bennett grew more and more tense. Finally, as they were leaving, Diane pulled her son aside while Jasmine pretended not to listen from the foyer. She seems like a sweet girl, Bennett, but is she really appropriate for someone in your position? You need a partner who can navigate your world, not someone you have to explain everything to. Someone with connections, breeding, grace. Someone like Natasha, you mean? Bennett's voice was tight with anger. Someone who sees me as a bank account with good connections? No thank you, mother. I'd rather have genuine connection with someone real than a strategic alliance with someone empty. I'm thinking of your future, your legacy, the company, Diane insisted. And I'm thinking about my happiness, Bennett shot back. For the first time in years, I've found someone who makes me want to be a better person, not a richer one. If you can't support that, then we have nothing more to discuss. The drive back to the city was quiet. Jasmine stared out the window, fighting tears. I'm sorry, Bennett finally said. She had no right to treat you that way. She's not wrong though, Jasmine whispered. I don't know your world, Bennett. I don't know which fork to use at fancy dinners or how to make small talk with billionaires. Maybe I am out of my depth. Bennett pulled the car over abruptly and turned to face her. Listen to me, Jasmine Walker. You are not out of your depth. You are genuine in a world of fakery, kind in a world of calculation, and passionate in a world of apathy. You teach children to read because you believe in them, not because it looks good on a resume. You're everything I never knew I was looking for. But what if it's not enough? Jasmine's voice broke. What if one day you wake up and realize your mother was right, that you need someone who fits better into your life? Then I'll change my life, Bennett said fiercely. Because I'm not losing you over something as meaningless as social status. He kissed her then, pouring all his conviction into it, and Jasmine felt some of her doubts melt away. But not all of them. As they drove back to Brooklyn, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenges were just beginning, the seeds of doubt. The following week, Bennett had to travel to Los Angeles for business meetings, and Jasmine threw herself into work to distract herself from missing him. They talked every night, but she could hear the exhaustion in his voice as he dealt with complicated negotiations and demanding investors. On Thursday evening, Jasmine was closing up the bookstore when Natasha Winters walked in, her designer heels clicking on the wooden floor. We're actually closed, Jasmine said politely, though her heart sank. I won't take long, Natasha said, examining her perfectly manicured nails. I just thought we should have a little chat, woman to woman. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Oh, but we do. Natasha's smile was sharp. You see, I've known Bennett for years. I know his patterns, his preferences, and most importantly, I know how his world works. And darling, you don't belong in it. That's not your decision to make, Jasmine said, trying to keep her voice steady. No, but it's reality, Natasha replied. Bennett goes through phases. Last year it was a yoga instructor. Before that, a marine biologist. He gets enchanted by women who seem different from his usual circle, but it never lasts. Eventually, he comes back to what makes sense. Women who understand his world, who can be true partners in his empire. I'm not a phase, Jasmine insisted, but her voice wavered. Look at the facts, Natasha continued, circling around her like a predator. You work in a bookstore making what, $30,000 a year? He owns buildings worth more than you'll earn in a lifetime. You teach kids to read on Saturdays. He negotiates billion-dollar deals. You're a nice distraction, but you're not a long-term solution. Get out, Jasmine said, her voice shaking with anger and tears. I'm just trying to save you heartbreak, Natasha said, heading toward the door. When Bennett realizes what everyone else already knows, that you're not equipped to be his partner, it's going to hurt. A lot. You might want to prepare yourself for that inevitable day. After she left, Jasmine sank into the old armchair in the back of the store and cried. The worst part was that some of what Natasha said echoed her own deepest fears. The ultimatum. When Bennett returned from Los Angeles on Saturday, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Jasmine was quiet during dinner, distracted and withdrawn. Talk to me, he said, taking her hand across the table. What happened while I was gone? Jasmine considered lying, but she was tired of pretending everything was fine. She told him about Natasha's visit, about the things she had said. Bennett's face darkened with anger. That manipulative woman. Jasmine, you know none of that's true, right? Is it though? Jasmine asked quietly. Bennett, be honest. Can you really see a future with me? A real one? Meeting with your investors, hosting galas, being the face of your empire alongside you? Because I can't see myself in that role, and I don't know if I want to become someone who can. I don't want you to become anyone other than who you are, Bennett said urgently. That's the whole point. But your mother does. Your ex-girlfriend does. Probably everyone in your circle does. Jasmine's voice cracked. And maybe they're not wrong. Maybe I'm being naive thinking love is enough to bridge the gap between our worlds. So what are you saying? Bennett's voice was tight with fear. I'm saying I need time, Jasmine whispered. Time to think about whether I can really do this, whether I'm strong enough to face the constant judgment and doubt. How much time? I don't know. Bennett closed his eyes briefly, pain evident on his face. I understand. Take whatever time you need. But Jasmine, please know that I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait as long as it takes for you to see what I see, that we're worth fighting for. The revelation. 3 days later, Jasmine was helping Mr. Henderson find a book when Trevor Goldman walked into the store. She was surprised to see Bennett's business partner without Bennett himself. Hi, Trevor, she said cautiously. Bennett's not here. I know. I came to see you, Trevor replied. Can we talk? They sat in the back of the store, and Trevor looked uncomfortable, like he was struggling with whether to speak. Bennett doesn't know I'm here, he began. And he'd probably be angry if he knew. But I've been his friend for 15 years, and I've never seen him like this. He's miserable, Jasmine. Barely eating, barely sleeping. Yesterday he snapped at an investor who's been loyal to us for a decade. I'm sorry, Jasmine said, feeling guilty. I just need time to figure out if I can handle his world. That's the thing though, Trevor said gently. You're thinking about it wrong. It's not about whether you can handle his world. It's about whether you both can build a new world together. He leaned forward, his expression earnest. Let me tell you something most people don't know about Bennett. 5 years ago, he was engaged to a woman named Patricia Caldwell. Perfect pedigree, old money, exactly what his mother wanted. 2 weeks before the wedding, he called it off. Why? Jasmine asked, surprised. Because he realized she didn't love him. She loved what he represented, the lifestyle he could provide, the status of being Mrs. Bennett Ashford. He told me he'd rather be alone forever than spend his life with someone who saw him as an achievement instead of a person. Trevor met her eyes seriously. Then he met you. And for the first time since I've known him, he talks about the future with genuine excitement. Not about deals or acquisitions, but about building something meaningful with someone he loves. Jasmine felt tears welling up. But I don't fit into his life. So change the life, Trevor said simply. Bennett has enough money for 10 lifetimes. He doesn't need more buildings or bigger deals. What he needs is someone who reminds him why any of it matters. That's you, Jasmine. You're the only person I've ever met who doesn't want anything from him except his time and his heart. After Trevor left, Jasmine sat alone in the bookstore, thinking about everything he had said. Her phone buzzed with a text from Bennett, "Missing you. Hope you're having a good day." Just 3 simple sentences, but they were filled with everything he felt. The mother's move. The next morning, Diane Ashford showed up at the bookstore. Jasmine's stomach dropped when she saw the elegant older woman browsing the shelves. "Mrs. Ashford," Jasmine greeted her cautiously. "This is unexpected. May we speak privately?" Diane asked, and there was something different in her tone, less cold than before. They went to the small office in the back, and Diane surprised Jasmine by sitting in the worn chair without any sign of distaste for its shabby condition. "I owe you an apology," Diane began, shocking Jasmine into silence. "I was rude and dismissive when we met, and you didn't deserve that." "What changed your mind?" Jasmine asked carefully. Diane smiled sadly. "My son did. He came to see me 2 days ago and told me that if I couldn't accept you, I would lose him. Not just temporarily, but permanently. He said he would rather build a life without his mother in it than build one without you." Jasmine felt her heart clench. "I've made many mistakes in my life," Diane continued, "but the biggest was pushing my son toward success at the expense of happiness. His father, Bennett's grandfather, did the same to him, and it destroyed their relationship. I swore I wouldn't repeat that pattern, yet here I am." She looked at Jasmine directly. "My son loves you. Genuinely, deeply, in a way I haven't seen him love anyone. And after much reflection, I realize that should be all that matters. Mrs. Ashford, I appreciate you coming here, but I'm still not sure I'm right for Bennett," Jasmine admitted. "His world is so different from mine." "Then perhaps his world needs changing," Diane said wisely. "Bennett's father, my late husband, was a janitor when I met him. My family was horrified. They threatened to disown me if I married him." She smiled at the memory. "I married him anyway, and I had 35 wonderful years before he passed. Not easy years, mind you. We had to build our own path, create our own version of success. But they were real, and they were ours." "I didn't know that," Jasmine whispered. "Most people don't. After he died, I became obsessed with Bennett achieving everything his father never had. But I lost sight of what his father valued most, genuine connection and living with purpose." Diane reached across and took Jasmine's hand. "My son has more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. What he doesn't have is someone who loves him for the man he is, not the empire he's built. You give him that. Please don't take it away because people like me made you feel unworthy." After Diane left, Jasmine stood in her small bookstore, surrounded by stories of love conquering impossible odds, and realized she was living one of those stories. The question was whether she had the courage to see it through. The grand gesture. That evening, as Jasmine was locking up the store, she noticed something strange. There were lights on in the empty lot across the street, lights that shouldn't be there. Curious, she crossed over and found herself standing in front of what looked like an outdoor library in the making. Bennett stood in the center of it all, surrounded by contractors, designers, and stacks of building materials. "What is this?" Jasmine asked, stunned. He turned, and the relief and joy on his face when he saw her nearly broke her heart. "This," he said, walking over to her, "is the Walker Children's Literacy Center. Free books, reading programs, tutoring, everything you've ever talked about wanting to provide for kids in this neighborhood. We break ground next week." "Bennett, this must cost millions," Jasmine breathed. $4.2 million, to be exact," he confirmed. "And before you say anything, this isn't about proving something or buying your affection. Trevor came to see me after he visited you. He told me about your conversation, about your doubts. And I realized I've been asking you to fit into my world when what I should be doing is building a world we both want to live in. He took her hands in his, and she could feel them trembling slightly. Jasmine, I don't need another skyscraper or another business deal. But I do need you. I need your passion, your kindness, and your belief that reading can change lives. I need the way you make me remember what actually matters. I'm scared, Jasmine admitted, tears streaming down her face. So am I, Bennett confessed. I'm terrified you'll walk away. I'm scared I won't be enough for you, that you'll realize you can have a simpler, easier life with someone else. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. Your mother came to see me, Jasmine said. She told me about your father. Bennett looked surprised. She did? She gave me her blessing, Jasmine said with a tearful laugh. Can you believe that? The woman who looked at me like I was a stray dog a few weeks ago actually gave me her blessing. My mother is nothing if not surprising, Bennett said with a small smile. Then his expression turned serious. But I don't need her blessing, Jasmine. I need yours. I need you to believe that what we have is worth the complications, worth the judgmental looks and the gossip and all the garbage that comes with my life. Because I promise you, I will spend every single day proving that you made the right choice. Jasmine looked at the literacy center taking shape around them, at this man who had literally built her dream because he wanted to build a life with her, and she realized that love wasn't about fitting into someone else's world. It was about creating a new world together. I love you, she said, the words coming easily now. I love you so much it terrifies me. And yes, I'm scared of the challenges ahead, but I'm more scared of living without you. Bennett pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. We'll figure it out together, he whispered into her hair. Every challenge, every obstacle, every judgmental society matron. Together. They kissed then, surrounded by the framework of a dream becoming reality, and Jasmine finally understood what her favorite books had been trying to tell her all along. The greatest love stories aren't about finding someone who fits perfectly into your life. They're about finding someone worth changing your life for. 6 months later. The Walker Children's Literacy Center opened on a sunny Saturday morning. The modest building was painted a cheerful yellow with floor-to-ceiling windows that let in streams of natural light. Inside, shelves overflowed with brand-new books, cozy reading nooks invited children to explore new worlds, and a state-of-the-art computer lab provided resources for homework help and research. Jasmine stood at the entrance, greeting families as they arrived for the grand opening. She wore a simple blue dress and her hair was pulled back in a casual ponytail, but she had never looked more radiant. Bennett watched her from across the room, talking to Trevor and a group of investors he had convinced to fund similar centers in other neighborhoods. You did good, man, Trevor said, clapping him on the shoulder. Really good. We did good, Bennett corrected. This was always her dream. I just helped make it real. Diane Ashford approached them, looking surprisingly comfortable in the casual community setting. She's wonderful with the children, she observed, watching Jasmine kneel down to help a shy little girl choose her first book. You chose well, Bennett. I know, Bennett said, unable to keep the smile off his face. Later, after the opening ceremony and the speeches, after the children had raced excitedly through the aisles picking out books, Bennett and Jasmine stood alone in the center that bore her name. Thank you, Jasmine said softly, leaning into his side. For believing in this dream. Thank you for believing in us, Bennett replied, kissing the top of her head. For being brave enough to take a chance on something scary. Best $450,000 you ever spent? Jasmine teased, looking up at him with those eyes that had captivated him from the first moment. Best $450,000 anyone ever spent, Bennett confirmed. Then he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Though I'm hoping to make an even better investment. Jasmine's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a simple but stunning diamond ring. "Jasmine Walker, will you marry me?" Bennett asked. "Will you build this crazy, complicated, beautiful life with me? Will you let me spend the rest of my days proving that you're the best decision I ever made?" Through happy tears, Jasmine nodded. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." As they kissed, surrounded by books and dreams coming true, Mr. Henderson watched from his favorite reading chair and smiled. He had known from the beginning that this was a love story worth waiting for. Outside, the Brooklyn sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Inside the Walker Children's Literacy Center, two people who had come from different worlds but found each other anyway celebrated the beginning of their forever. And somewhere in Manhattan, in the archives of society magazines, the story of the bookstore clerk and the mogul would be written about for years to come. But the real story, the one that mattered, was being written every day in the lives they built together, in the children they helped, and in the love that proved price tags mean nothing compared to priceless connection. The auction that night had been about raising money for a good cause. But what Bennett and Jasmine won was so much more than a dinner date. They won a love that would last a lifetime, a partnership that would change their community, and the courage to believe that sometimes the most unexpected connections are exactly what our hearts need.